cheating and conspiracy to commit murder. It was the middle of the week, and the house was empty again. My wife Darcy and my twin daughters were out, as usual. I don't think it's unreasonable for a man to expect his family to be home when he arrives. It wasn't always that way. Up until 6 months ago, I could count on a warm welcome and a delicious dinner. Not anymore. Something has changed, and I'm not sure it's for the better. Darcy and I were married for 6 years. We met in high school and got married right after I graduated from college. I never had another girlfriend. Darcy was normal in every way, and I felt comfortable being married to her. She had brown hair, brown eyes, a good figure, and normal breasts. She didn't stand out. She just blended in with the crowd. Because of that, I never had any reason to doubt her fidelity. Perhaps that was the reason I should have doubted. 4 years ago, we had 2 beautiful twin daughters, Janet and Janice. I loved them dearly, but Darcy didn't seem to share my feelings. She didn't like the birth and insisted I have a vasectomy immediately afterward. For the first few years, she looked forward to me coming home so I could look after the twins. Then we met Bill and Emily. Emily Mercer was unable to have children of her own and volunteered to babysit every chance she got. Darcy was in high spirits. She could leave the house and go shopping or do other personal errands whenever she pleased. I swear that for 3 months the twins spent more time with Aunt Em than they did with their own mother. Quite often the 4 of them would go out together, but usually Emily would watch the girls while Darcy ran around doing her own thing. Lately I was beginning to wonder what exactly Darcy's running around was. There seemed to be no need to be away so often to run a normal household. Overall, I was happy with my life. I had a comfortable job, a nice house, a late model car, and a perfect family. Darcy and I would occasionally go out while Bill and Emily babysat the twins. On weekends, the 4 of us would get together to play cards or have a drink at the bar. I liked Bill and enjoyed his company. I wasn't sure about Emily, but Darcy seemed to like her. My concern about how my wife was spending her free time wasn't deep enough to make me figure out what was going on. I just sort of noted it in my mind and moved on. It was Tuesday morning when things got interesting. I parked my BMW in my reserved spot at work. I was high enough up the food chain to get a parking spot, but not a very good one. It was at the end of the parking lot and on a slope, but better than no space at all. A level parking lot was a rarity in our town. Why the founding fathers chose a hilly place like this to build a town has always puzzled me. I'd only been at work for about an hour when I had to leave on a call. I think the crappy parking spot saved my life. It hadn't rained in days, but there was a wet spot on the ground near my front tire. Normally, I wouldn't have given it a second thought, but not today. There were little shiny rivulets running down the asphalt. The liquid had a metallic sheen to it, and I felt compelled to touch it with my finger. It wasn't water. The BMW was less than a year old, and I couldn't imagine anything broken. I definitely didn't want to get behind the wheel. 20 minutes later, the mechanic was lying on his back looking under my car. "I'm sorry, Mr. Evans, but I'm going to report this to the police. Damage to the brake line should be reported to the police." "I'm sorry, but that doesn't make sense." "I'm no expert on these things, but that line didn't break or fall off. It was damaged." "You mean it was cut?" "No, it wasn't cut. It looks like it was filed or sanded down with something. This kind of thing doesn't happen by accident with metal flex lines. It was done on purpose. Don't touch anything and let the cops handle it." "How far could I have gotten?" "Nah, 2 blocks at most, and the whole system would have been devastated. Considering the hills in this town, you'd have a hell of a long drive and an unpleasant stop. Let's leave it at that and go to the office. I can leave you alone until the police are done with this." By the time I left work, the BMW wasn't there. I finished the day using the free rental car and got home at the usual time. Darcy was home and seemed surprised to see me. "Hi, sweetie. Did you have a good day? Where's your car? Why are you driving a Ford?" Something seemed suspicious. Why did she decide to stay home today? Was she expecting a phone call? I noticed she didn't have dinner ready. I got the feeling that she didn't expect me to come home at all. Even the twins were there to greet me. The Beamer was due for a 30,000-mile inspection. They won't be able to get it done until tomorrow. What are we having for dinner? I can't smell anything. I saw no reason to tell her about the brake line. Darcy stammered a little. I thought we could order in tonight, and I wanted to wait to see what you wanted. Pizza is fine. I'm going upstairs to take a shower. Before I got under the water, I heard Darcy talking to someone on the phone. Things were getting interesting. The next day, I had an early visitor at work. Robert Evans, I'm Lieutenant Daniel Green. Do you have a minute? Sure. Is this about the car? Daniel Green was a large man, but not fat. He had close-cropped hair and metal-rimmed glasses. Except for the pink blush on his skin, he seemed to have a business-like air about him. We're done with the car, Mr. Evans, and you can pick it up at the shop any time. Your mechanic installed a new brake line when we left. We just have a few questions, if you don't mind. Am I under suspicion of something? No, of course not. But we suspect something suspicious is going on. Have you had any arguments or disagreements with anyone recently? Anyone angry with you or harboring a grudge? Not that I know of. Was the mechanic right? Is someone setting me up? Could I have been killed? Well, Mr. Evans, someone was definitely hoping to cause you bodily harm and possibly death. It was purely amateur work. However, I don't think you would have been killed, although it's possible. Whoever did it didn't bother to disable your airbags. This car has front and side airbags. If you weren't traveling at a high rate of speed, I don't think you would have been killed. However, that's not the point. Just because they didn't know what they were doing doesn't mean they weren't trying to kill you. Gosh, that's reassuring. I think if someone is trying to kill you, it's best if they're incompetent. Instead of dying, I might just be crippled for life. That's great. What do I do now? Take my card. If you think of anything, give me a call. In the meantime, be careful. I'd bet my next paycheck they'll try again. That's pretty damn reassuring. I'll definitely think about it. As he was walking out the door, Lieutenant Green stopped and turned around. By the way, how's your family life? I didn't answer, and I don't think he expected me to. Shortly thereafter, I left work and headed home. The house was empty. We had a small room that was used as a sort of office. It contained our home computer, a desk, and a small filing cabinet. I sat at the desk for a few minutes with a cold face, trying to figure out what to do. It's unsettling, to say the least, to know that someone wants you dead. I'm a good guy. I've never cheated anyone. Why would anyone want me dead? I thought my marriage was a success. Darcy never really complained about anything. I gave her a nice house, a nice car, a stack of credit cards, and 2 beautiful children. What more could she want? Darcy paid all the bills on the house. She took care of the checkbook. She paid her utilities, car payment, mortgage, credit cards, and insurance policies. Insurance? Insurance! Just on a hunch, I pulled out the insurance binder. Like most young couples, we were horribly underinsured. When you're young, you don't think about the possibility of death. I had a small work insurance policy for $50,000. Other than that, the only insurance I had was mortgage insurance, which Darcy insisted on. If I died, the house would pass to her for free. It was cheap because I was still young, so I added it to the mortgage payment. I never looked in the file cabinet or checkbook. Darcy knew this, and it turned out to be her mistake. She was meticulous. Everything in her bank account was always in order, down to the last penny. She always knew where every file and receipt was. My mortgage payment included the cost of homeowner's insurance, so there was never a receipt for that. My insurance at work was a payroll deduction. Why did Republic National Insurance have 2 receipts for $150 each for the same month? I had never done business with that company, and I didn't know about any of their insurance policies. I put the receipts in my pocket and continued my search. Nothing else out of the ordinary turned up. Darcy kept records of everything. It was her obsession. I felt it was something I wasn't supposed to know about, but she couldn't help herself. She had to keep the proof of payment to satisfy her obsession. I called the Mercer house. Emily picked up the kids and said Darcy had gone shopping. She was friendly but evasive. I called Darcy's cell phone, but it was turned off. Interesting. I decided to go out to lunch and then do some investigating. Robert Evans, good to see you here. What can I do for you? The lady at the customer service desk at Republic National Insurance Company was named Debbie Martin, or at least that was her name when we went to high school together. She had her own private office, and the name tag on her desk said D. Reynolds. I remembered her because she was the only girl who ever asked me out. Even though everyone knew Darcy and I were a couple, she asked me out anyway, just in case. Of course, I turned her down. Her hair was cut short and was a shade of brown. She had a nice tan, and her makeup was flawless. So, how are you, Debbie? Haven't seen you since high school, and we live in the same town. I'm fine. It's good to see you again. Sorry to hear about your marriage. Now she's really got my attention. What was she sorry to hear about? I had a strong feeling that something was going on, and this casual comment from a woman I hadn't seen in years only reinforced it. I couldn't and didn't respond to what Debbie had just said. She immediately took notice. Oh, shit. I'm sorry as hell. Forget I said anything, Bob. I'm way out of line. Sometimes my words roll off my tongue. Debbie was knocking herself down trying to fix something that couldn't be fixed. She said it, and I remembered it. I finally overcame the awkwardness by asking the question I came to find an answer for. Can you tell me what these receipts are for? She took them from my hands and seemed relieved that I had decided not to continue the previous discussion. After a few clicks on the keyboard, she sighed and threw me a pitying look. Bob, I hate to say this, but it looks like this reunion is rapidly going downhill. I didn't respond. She pressed a few more keys and then leaned back in her chair. Do you know a man named Philip Chase? No, I can't say I do. Is there some reason why I should know him? Debbie reached over and rummaged through several magazines on the shelf at the side of her desk. She picked one out and opened it. This is Philip Chase. Have you ever seen him before? Yes, as a matter of fact, I have. He was at the BQ bar when my neighbors were having a party about 6 months ago. I remember him pretty well because I thought he was paying too much attention to my wife. I even remember Darcy's comment at the time. What did he have to do with me? Debbie stood up and closed her office door. Returning to her desk, she leaned forward and looked directly into my eyes. Her friendly demeanor turned serious. It was obvious she didn't want to say what needed to be said. Darcy had been having lunch with Philip Chase a couple times a week for the past 3 months. Sometimes they were long lunches. Philip dropped a few remarks to his co-workers that they were planning to get married in the near future. No one else in the company knows Darcy except me. I knew she was married, and I knew it was after you. That's why I misspoke when I first saw you. I assumed it was something you knew about, and that you were here to take care of some insurance issues related to an impending divorce. I apologize for the indelicacy. You know this guy? We work in the same building and the same company. I always thought he was an asshole, and I never understood what Darcy saw in him, especially since she had you. I found the last part of that comment interesting. What are those receipts for? Technically, you should know. About a month ago, you took out term life insurance policies worth $750,000. That was the down payment on those policies. That's the maximum amount you could get on those policies without a physical exam. Both policies provide double indemnity in the event of accidental death. That's $1 million. From the look on your face, I'm guessing you didn't know anything about that. Just curious, who was the agent who wrote those policies for me? Debbie took a quick glance at the screen. Surprise, surprise, it was your favorite insurance agent, Philip Chase. I suppose I had to sign something at some point. Debbie turned the screen so we could both see it, and then opened both documents. The signature was similar to mine, and surprisingly, it was exactly the same in both places, as if it were a copy or some kind of facsimile. We both sat there looking at each other. She was waiting for me to say something, and I didn't know what to say. Finally, I reached into my coat pocket and handed her Daniel Green's business card. Could you call this guy and explain to him what's going on? I'm afraid if I do, your credibility will be lost. Debbie looked at the business card and back at me. There's something else going on here, isn't there, Bob? Yes, I'm afraid so. As I got up to leave, she asked one last question. Will I see you again? I thought about that question for a long time. I think it only took a split second in real time, but it imprinted itself deeper in my mind. Professionally or personally? Both. I pointed to the nameplate on her desk. What about Mr. Reynolds? He's long gone. We both smiled as I walked out the door. It was still well past noon when I arrived at the empty house. I plopped into my comfortable long-backed chair and thought about the situation and how the day had gone. It became clear that Darcy had met Philip at a party the Mercers were throwing. How did they know Philip and why did they invite him? How come I never saw him at any events or parties after that? How did Darcy and Philip become close in such a short time? How close were they? There seemed to be more questions than answers at this point. I had decided to switch to coffee when the doorbell rang. Things would be a little clearer now. It was a courier envelope, addressed to Darcy and marked, "In person." After a brief altercation, the courier allowed me to sign for the receipt. It was one of those envelopes that couldn't be opened without destroying it completely. I sat down at the kitchen table with the envelope and a new cup of coffee. A razor blade and a bottle of rubber glue was all I needed to solve the envelope problem. The contents of the envelope were what really bothered me. After throwing a quick glance at the legal-size document, I went into the office and turned on the computer and scanner. 5 minutes later, Detective Green received a copy of the document to his email address. I'm sure that information obtained in this manner doesn't meet all the complex legal requirements these days, but I was just waiting for him to get the information. The document was full of complex legal terms and came from a law firm about 100 kilometers away. It was William and Emily Mercer's legal agreement to adopt the twins. Darcy had relinquished all parental rights to the girls and given them to the Mercers. Nowhere in the document was my name or any mention of me at all. It was as if I didn't exist. A lot of things were clearer now. I was now certain that I needed to be a little more careful not to get into an accident. I had left Darcy a note saying that I needed to leave town for a few days on business. I was sure she would see it because it was on top of a specially delivered envelope. I checked one last time to make sure there was no sign that it had been opened. I was looking forward to a few nights at the motel. Daniel Green was waiting for me when I got to work the next day. He was all brightened up with a smile. I like it when things work out well. I hope I was at least a little helpful. It really helped when we were able to identify the fingerprints we found on the fender of your car. I just wanted to let you know that we plan to bring all 4 men in for questioning this morning. We don't think Bill Mercer is involved, but we need to question him to be sure. You may want to arrange for someone to babysit your daughters if the need arises. My officers hate babysitting. I wasn't really hurt. What can you blame them for? Your wife and Mr. Chase will be charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Emily Mercer will probably be charged as an accessory to the same charge. They won't get much jail time, but it could save your life. It's important to me and worth the effort. Can your people bring my daughters here to the office? I don't see a problem with that. About 30 minutes after Detective Green left, Debbie Reynolds showed up at my office. Hey, Bob, I hope you don't mind a surprise visit. Your police lieutenant suggested you might need a babysitter for your girls. I took the rest of the day off just in case. I also wanted to let you know that you are now officially uninsured. I canceled 2 of your double indemnity policies. You really should consider additional life insurance. I was glad to see Debbie and welcome the levity she brought with her. I'm glad you made it. The girls probably won't be here for a while, so you can tell me all about the mysterious Mr. Reynolds. The twins didn't show up until an hour later. Debbie had plenty of time to tell me about her failed marriage. She also told me about the several attempts she had made to separate Darcy and me when we were still in high school. Of course, I didn't pay attention to any of this, but apparently Darcy knew about her attempts. Debbie got along with the girls even better than Emily did. After a few minutes, I disappeared completely from view. At their age, they were a bitch of a punishment, so I was relieved to have help. 2 hours later, I got a call from Darcy. "Robert, I'm in trouble. There's been a big mistake, and I need you to come down to the police station and bail me out." "Bail you out? Bail you out for what? What did you get arrested for?" "It's complicated, Bob. I'll explain it when you get here. Can you get here soon?" "Look, Darcy, I'm kinda stuck here at the office. I'll call your parents. I'm sure they can help you." "No, Bob. Don't call my parents. They won't understand. You have to come here. Please hurry." I didn't answer. "Bob! Are you there, Bob? What's wrong? Are you coming?" "No, Darcy, I'm not coming. I'll call your parents for you. Goodbye." She was still begging when I hung up. Darcy's parents insisted on finding out what she was in jail for, and I repeatedly refused to answer them. Reluctantly, they finally agreed to go after her. I told them to take her to their home, and I would ship her things as soon as possible. I got the feeling that they realized this was a domestic problem. Debbie volunteered to take the girls to Chuck E. Cheese's, and I went home to pack Darcy's things. I packed quickly and put the bags and boxes out on the porch as they were full. Just as I was finishing up, Darcy and her parents arrived. Darcy was crying and stayed in the car with her mother while her father and I loaded her things into the trunk. It only took a few minutes. Darcy's father shook my hand and told me that he and his wife were sorry for the trouble Darcy had caused. It was short, but sincere. I appreciated it. Philip Chase wasn't out on bail, but he wasn't gone too long. Darcy was more than willing to trade information about his whereabouts for a reduced sentence. Bill Mercer had no idea what Emily and Darcy were up to. He never found out that Emily had set Darcy up with Chase. Bill was never charged with anything. Emily got a 2-year sentence and would probably be out in a year. Bill filed for divorce. Darcy got 3 years for conspiracy to commit murder. She will probably be out in 2. Apparently, Philip and Darcy were going to go to Europe with the insurance money and the sale of the house. Philip got 8 years. My divorce will be final in 2 months. The twins will start school this year, and I will have to hire a full-time nanny. My relationship with Debbie is slowly strengthening. She mentioned that she's willing to quit her job and become a full-time mom and wife if I want to. I probably should have gone to the prom with her. The end!